Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Radio. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin, and huge political vibrations out there. Uh, Things are changing as we speak. 3 weeks ago, I was pretty much accepting of the fact that the Republicans would take the House, but they would, but the Democrats would maintain the Senate. I, I, it is not just wishful thinking. I truly believe it's a double. It's a twofer. I believe the Republicans are going to take both the House and the Senate. In the House, it looks like they're building their lead, and in the Senate, races like Dr. Oz, and he was within the margin of error. In fact, 2 points. They had that Fetterman debate. I don't know if you saw it, Dr. Lopkin, but it was something. I'm not really a Star Trek fan, but I remember that episode with Captain Pike when he couldn't talk. Well, pretty much deja vu all over again. It was not. He was ill-advised for Fetterman to debate. He could have just come up with some bullshit excuse, and at least it
Well,
would have been
no,
better than that performance.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. It's a good thing he did debate because the voters need to know what his situation is. And what I don't understand is that Fetterman had his stroke prior to the primary. Democrats had the ability to remove him because of his health. They had the ability to elect another candidate, and yet they decided to go with him. And it's the same thing we saw with Biden. These folks are medically not capable of doing the job. And rather than accepting that, the Democrats are putting them in these positions where we saw the debate last night. Fetterman is clearly not capable of doing the job. He was barely able to complete the debate with the closed captioning that they gave him. He's not going to have closed captioning on the floor of the Senate. He's not going to have closed captioning in committee meetings. He is not going to be capable of doing the job. And
No,
that's before you look into the issues and what he stands for.
yes, I do agree, Dr. Lopkin. I guess what I'm trying to say, it was good for the American people and the people of Pennsylvania. What I'm trying to say was ill-advised. Whoever's running his campaign, that was a real boner.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly didn't help him any.
Not at all.
I've heard from a couple of doctors who have stated that just based on last night's performance, and Fetterman himself, when he was asked about why he refused to reveal his medical records, he said, "Well, I'm out here for an hour. This is going to show what my medical condition is." There were a number of doctors that came out after that and said, based on that performance, he is not capable of doing the job.
Essentially, what it did, it put reality to the debate, meaning there is no speculation anymore. He is incapable of the job. I truly believe, in spite of early voting, that Dr. Oz will win.
I
I was
I I
good.
think Dr. Oz will pull this out. I mean, honestly, I feel bad for the people of Pennsylvania because they're in a no-win situation. This is two horrible candidates, and they've got to choose one of them.
Well, it's called the shit sandwich, I believe, but
Yeah,
one stinks more than the other, and we know who that is. I think actually Fetterman would be dangerous. But one before we leave, Mr. Fetterman, um, any effect of Barack? I believe he's going to stump for him next week.
Barack is going to be stumping for him. Biden is going to be
Oh, Biden,
stumping for
that's
him.
crazy.
I think those two sort of cancel each other out. But I said on a previous podcast, I don't think Obama is going to have that much of an impact, especially in Pennsylvania, when one, early voting has already been going on, and two, you saw the results of the debate last night. I think if Obama wanted to make an impact, he should have joined the campaign 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. Now, I think it's too little too late. I don't think he's going to have much of an impact. He's going to make the Democrats that were already going to vote Democratic and were not on the fence about Fetterman. He's going to make them feel better about their decision, but he's not going to convince anybody.
I think it could actually backfire. What are you going to say? No one is more articulate. No one has
Right, yeah.
the intellectual stamp. I mean, come on, really? What are you going to say? He wears a good hoodie. Vote him
And
in.
there has been speculation that the only reason Obama is joining the campaign trail now is that if the Republicans take both the House and the Senate, it's the death of Biden's presidency, and it's also the final nail in the coffin for Obama's legacy. And we talked about that during the 2020 campaign. That's really all that Obama cares about. He stumped for Hillary, saying that this was a referendum on his legacy. And of course, voters overwhelmingly chose Trump, killing his legacy. But now Biden's trying to revive it with the same policies, and it's backfiring. Barack Obama's legacy is in the toilet, and this
His
is him
legacy is in
trying
the
to
toilet,
resurrect it.
but thanks in part, not in total, but Biden, I think, put the final nail in that proverbial coffin.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
it's Biden light, or not, I mean it's Obama light, it's Susan Rice. All I mean Biden's not, and it's becoming increasingly apparent that he's not in charge. In fact, he was at a White House or White House lawn little get together, and he didn't know which way to go. It's like you being in your house, Doctor Lopkin, on your lawn having a barbecue and not understanding which way
Well,
to go to the kitchen.
after Biden met with the Saudi prince told Saudi Arabian media that it was very clear that Biden was not in command of his faculties. So, yeah, he's going out meeting with foreign dignitaries, and they are turning around and going, he's not in charge. He doesn't know what's going on. It's become very obvious to everybody except the die-hard left media.
Yes, and that's even changing because they want to protect their own agenda. Now, speaking of Biden, what happens when? I think it's when, not if, he loses both houses, which I believe he will. I think the powers to be tells him it's over, dude. I don't care if he
It
wants
would
to
not,
run or not. That's
yeah.
that's that's who gives a shit. It's they're going to sit him down and saying, Uncle Joe, Amtrak Joe, Aviator Joe, the gig's up.
Well, remember, the DNC can't tell him not to run. They can refuse to support him. I think they'll try to convince him not to run at this point. He's a liability to every ticket that he campaigns for. He's certainly a liability, going forward for the Democratic Party. And in fact, there's a question of whether or not he'll even have the option, because there is talk about using the 25th Amendment to remove him because of his mental faculties. The Atlantic put forward an article just in the last few days that they are expecting Republicans to impeach him. Now, no Republican has actually talked about impeachment at this point because nobody wants Kamala Harris as president. But the fact that liberal Atlantic seems to think he will be impeached, I think they're all trying to throw him under a bus.
Yeah, they're sending out the signal that they're basically encouraging, putting momentum behind that. But even if he does not get impeached, he's not going to want to run because when the Republicans take both houses, both chambers, his life is going to be a living hell. There's going to be all the investigations that should have happened will happen. Mayorkas, Hunter. It's going to be a never-ending reality show.
Yeah, you're going to see the Hunter Biden laptop is going to take center stage. Biden's involvement with Hunter's business associates is going to
Big
take
guy.
center stage. Again, we had FBI whistleblowers come out and say the FBI is sitting on a mountain of evidence that could convict Hunter Biden and implicated Joe. So
I think
you're
it's
going to
going to be not a very pleasurable experience. Don't think he's going to get impeached, but I think he will be so sidetracked and disabled, not just mentally or derailed, I should say, that he's not going to be able to pass the Better Care for Pets Act. It's never going to
well,
happen.
he's not going to get anything passed,
Zero.
but and I don't mean this to be flippant, but I actually question, you're talking about how much torture it would be for him. I'm not convinced he's actually going to be aware of most of it. I think he only knows what his inner circle tells him. And I don't think a lot of this is going to be told to him. I think the investigations are going to go on. I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, but I don't know how much he's actually going to be aware of what's going on. I don't know how much of what's going on now he's aware of. Every time he opens his mouth, he seems to, not know the issues, not know the polls, not know what's
Well,
actually
he
going
didn't
on in
even
the
know how
world.
things came to be. He talked about
But
the debt forgiveness initiative, which he signed as an executive order. He said, "Yeah, I don't know if you knew this, Dr. Lopkin, but according to our esteemed president, it passed by 2 votes.
yes, I heard him say that, and of course, no, this never went
And there was
through
never a vote."
through Congress. There was never a vote. He doesn't seem to know what's going on, and let's face it, this does not get better. And this is a condition that is going to keep deteriorating.
And it has
If you take yeah,
deteriorated.
if you take a look at him now when he talks to the press between and his performance in the debates, you've seen the deterioration. So honestly, I think the only reason they're not planning on using the 25th Amendment is because they don't want Kamala Harris in the Oval Office.
Probably the
But
smartest thing he ever did, actually. It's called the poison pill.
exactly.
Um, so anyway, it is very interesting. Also, we were talking about that. No conservative, John Stewart, basically was saying that, and from what the crap they have now on late night, God, you dismiss the guy, even though I might not have agreed with him politically, but at least he had some insights. He says that Hunter and the Burisma situation is corrupt on its very foundation.
Yeah, you're hearing more and more traditional liberals. And I think we do need to start separating traditional liberals from the so-called democratic socialists that have taken over the party. As Bill Maher has said time and time again, he didn't change, the party left him behind. And you're hearing more and more from these traditional liberals like Jon Stewart, like Bill Maher, that yes, the Hunter Biden laptop was a real story. It was politically motivated to keep it out of the media. And this is a seeing the moderate Democrats, the traditional liberals really start to stand up to this. And by the way, you said you missed Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart actually does still have a TV show. It's on Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus. So nobody ever sees it because nobody gets Apple TV Plus.
No.
But he does have a show.
And by the way,
But yeah,
just real
and
quick, not that it makes any difference at all. I had a did it my free trial of Apple Plus. That lasted 2 days. There you go. It's
yeah, I
spellbinding the
had
content.
I also had a free trial of that for a while and never even considered renewing it because
No, I think we're good.
the stuff they have is terrible.
Speaking of renewals and renewal, It was supposed to be the new CNN. I guess that's still in process, but I think at 9 or 8. Yes, I think it was 8. Replacing Cuomo, they have Jay Tapper. Just a ball of excitement, okay, and non-biasm. Anyway, he has literally 500,000 viewers. Less than 500,000. I mean, you could have. I don't know. You're from New York. Remember they used to have that Yule old log during Christmas.
Oh yes, the
I bet that.
WPIX Yule log that would get 500 more than 500,000
There you
viewers
go.
every year. Yes.
There you go. So, but there is much angst at this once the Steam network that the minions are scared shitless that they're going to be the receiver of a pink slip.
And they have every right to, be concerned about that because just today, the new CNN CEO, Chris Light, announced to the staff that the restructuring will accelerate soon, and that's going to include more layoffs. Now, why is it taking so long to restructure CNN? Because you have to understand that CNN's not the only thing they're restructuring. They are restructuring all of Warner Brothers. So the film studios, the television studios, the CW network that they have a part in is being sold. I'm not sure if the sale has gone through yet, but it's being sold. So they're restructuring the entire company. CNN is now a very small part of that. So yes, it's taking them some time to do it. And also, they've stated that CNN had no journalists. If they want to turn this into a news channel again, they need to go out and find journalists. And the fact of the matter is, one, there's not a lot of them out there anymore. And two, there's not a lot of them out there that want to work for CNN.
No, it's not exactly like you're joining Microsoft in 1980. I just leave it at that. So back to the red wave. Very interesting. Even in our hometown, where we do our podcast, Blue, Connecticut, at once deep blue Connecticut. We talked about this 2 weeks ago as kind of an aside. It's like, yeah, okay, have another drink. Are you kidding me? But I saw it again and over the last several days in different news outlets that Blumenthal's lead for Senate, his senatorial lead, is now just 5 points. And it was 13 points a blink of an eye ago. And then to that point in deep blue Connecticut, Jonna Hayes running for re-election as a congressional candidate is now in a statistical tie with her novice challenger. Thoughts?
Yeah, it is absolutely amazing. Now, I'll be honest, I don't expect either Republican to win those races. I think Johanna Hayes will pull it out. I think Richard Blumenthal will pull it out. But the fact that it is this close in deep blue Connecticut shows the problem that the Democrats are having. And now I have started seeing super PAC commercials against Richard Blumenthal, coming out. And of course, Blumenthal, there's a lot of there to run against because he's a
God, yeah.
terrible senator. Was a terrible candidate. He was a terrible attorney general.
Yes,
But
chased. Wait, well,
it,
hold on. He was not terrible because he had the distinction of chasing more business out of
yep,
Connecticut than any single person could ever think of doing.
yeah, he was incredibly anti-business. He has, right now, Connecticut was just rated the third worst state to do business in. And Connecticut's fall to that really did start with Blumenthal as Attorney General. He has done more to destroy the economy of Connecticut than any single person.
And
So,
part
yeah,
of that reason, though, however, is because talk about, shed some light on Mr. Blumenthal. He was a spoiled brat, okay, as we've talked about on the on Carnivore Radio, that he grew up on third base, thought he would hit a triple. He never actually had to work a day in his life. Therefore, he had no understanding that maybe we did want that cross channel electrical cable. Maybe
Yeah.
we did want that business to move. But for him, business is dirty. It's it's not part of the Yale Yale psyche here. Only blue collar does work. Are you kidding me? I bet if you looked at Mr. Blumenthal's hands, they look like they just came out of a manicure center.
Oh,
No
absolutely.
calluses,
Now,
nothing.
it is absolutely amazing how little he knows about how things work other than politics. He's got politics down. But the fact that these Democrats even have to think about the fact that they're that close is amazing. And it's an indictment of the Democratic policies because again, Connecticut, and the same thing goes for New York. New York has been deep blue, and yet now it looks like Lee Zeldin, the Republican for
I think he's going
governor,
to
is
win.
going to win. Yes.
He's going to win. He was facing just a complete buffoon in the debate. She literally said, well, "Why is crime so? I don't understand what you're fixated on. Really? People are getting pushed into subway,
Yeah.
tracks, and you don't know why that's an issue." And she's such a dumb shit. I'm
Well,
sorry, but she is.
it amazed me when she came out yelling, "Well, it's all about gun control. We have to get guns off the street." The rise in crime has nothing to do with guns. It's people being beaten, people being stabbed, and people being thrown in front of trains. There's not a gun to be found in any of those crimes. So a focus on gun control is completely useless.
Yeah, and it's easy for her to say. I think she was at a baseball game, possibly a minor league game. She had more security than the
Right.
Pope.
Armed
Of
security.
course,
Let's
yeah,
not forget
more than
that.
the Pope. It was like I think she depleted half the law enforcement community in the state of New York for that one event. Yeah, she's totally out of touch. And she over the summer to try to relate to the average person, she had a picture of her supposedly having her barbecue in the backyard. But when people
Yes.
looked at it deeper, there was nothing on the grill and it wasn't even on.
No,
There you go. That's
she's
that's a hell
all
of a
about
barbecue.
political. Yeah, she's all about political theater. And you're talking about crime and why it's so important. I came across a very disturbing statistic that amid all of these rising crime rates across the country, they are expecting by the end of this year that 45% of police officers are going to retire, and another 18% are simply quitting and leaving their jobs. This is the result of the defund the police movement, the fact that the politicians are not supporting the police. Now, um, and I'm forgetting the governor's name in New York, but she has said she came
Hochul.
out with Eric
Hochul.
Adams. Yes, Hochul. Hochul and Eric Adams, who's the mayor of New York City,
A
came out
genius,
and they
by the
said
way, a true genius.
they are going to be increasing patrols in the subway to try to alleviate some of the subway crime. It's a great idea, but they don't have the manpower to do it. They're going to be relying heavily on overtime. How much overtime do you expect cops to do, before they burn out?
Oh, there's
So,
no question. But there's one thing I must interject. A lot of this shit happened with Obama. Um, Immediately jumping to the other side of the law enforcement. They acted stupid before even knowing the facts. So did he? Is it his responsibility? No, but he started the ball rolling. Make no mistake about it.
well, I mean, it's not just Obama, it's a liberal problem in general because liberals always tend to jump to, well, the cops did this, and oh, there's, 12 seconds of phone footage. Look how terrible the cop is to the suspect. But of course, they never go into the fact that the suspect could be resisting arrest. The fact is, most of these suspects are, have are out on parole or have criminal records. There's always more to the story that the liberal media ignores. But
On
it's
purpose,
got
they lionize these people. Like, yes, he just got out of church and he just completed his final
right.
class for his MBA at Harvard. Yeah, okay.
And
Yep.
the perfect example of this is what happened with the Border Patrol whipping the Haitian migrants. The photographer told them point blank, that's not what this photo shows. What you're saying, and they knew this when they made the announcements that, oh, this
Mayorkas
was
knew it.
horrible.
Mayorkas
Yes,
knew it.
Mayorkas knew this at the time, and he let Biden go out there and criminalize them, and they put these officers through an entire show investigation. Some of them
Stalinesque.
were, yes, some of them were cited for administrative violations because they felt, well, we have to punish them for something even though they did nothing wrong. This anti-police movement, all the way to defund the police, going back to the deep liberals, this has got to stop. We need these people. They are the front lines on our security, whether it's Border Patrol, the NYPD, your local police department. These people are putting their lives on the line for us, and we need to support them. Now, I'm not saying that every single police officer is above reproach. You have bad apples in the police department the same way you have bad apples in any
In
industry.
politics as well, yes.
Yes, but as a whole, these people are risking their lives for us, and we need to support them.
There's no question about it. AOC and Omar from Minnesota, they're two, anti-police figures. You had AOC at a town hall meeting. Her constituent, she really has no constituents. She's basically a TikTok celebrity that happens to be in Congress. But anyway, they were chanting AOC must go instead of engaging like a mature individual would, engaging them in what is the issue, how can I improve, here's my stance. You might not have known this. All the things that a mature adult would do. She starts dancing like some friggin' valley girl in the middle, basically saying "f
Well,
you" to her constituency.
that's been her modus operandi since she took office. Anytime anybody criticizes her, she starts dancing, she mocks them because
She's
she
not the
has
brightest bulb in the Christmas
no,
tree.
she is an abject moron. Just listen to her talk. She has been rated the least effective congressperson because she hasn't gotten anything done. She's a
Oh
social
no, I
media
disagree.
influencer.
She has gotten something done. She pushed Amazon with all those great
Oh,
jobs
yeah.
away from her district. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, and that's what her constituents are well aware of. She has done nothing to benefit them. She has cost them jobs. Crime in her district is up. And of course, she's yelling defund the police, and her constituents are saying, no, we want more police patrolling. She has no idea what her job is. She is a social media influencer without an actual thought in her head. And
There you go.
and her constituents are right. She needs to go. And you mentioned Ilian Omar. We are seeing this with her constituents. Right now, the latest data has her running neck and neck. You don't get further to the left than Ilian Omar. So for her constituents to be going, you know what, we might elect a Republican, you're seeing the results that these democratic socialists, and again, I do not understand why the Democratic Party listens to them. They don't even identify as Democrats. They identify themselves as democratic socialists.
Because
That
because the Democrats in charge, the old school, are scared shitless of these people. That's what it
well,
is.
you are seeing the tide turn, and it always does, especially when the extreme takes over the party. So now you are seeing the moderate Democrats speak out against the woke culture. You're seeing parents come out against woke culture. You're seeing comedians come out against woke culture. Tim Allen put a brilliant tweet criticizing woke culture on Twitter. And of course, people are going nuts. Oh my God, how could you? Talked about how CNN staffers are scared for their jobs. Twitter employees just wrote a letter to Elon Musk trying to defend what they're doing. And it's like, no, these people need to go because they have cancel culture has gone too far. We need to stop. We need to promote talking. We need to promote debate. It is absolutely appalling how many candidates on both sides of the aisle this election cycle have refused to debate. We need more debate, not less.
Yeah, I think we see that in Arizona in the gubernatorial race. A complete bonehead on the Democratic side talks like a valley girl is refusing to debate because it might be uncomfortable. So of course PBS. And what is going on with PBS? It's public broadcast system. There's nothing public about it. It's an arm of the Democratic Party. I mean, why are we funding this schlock organization?
Well, it's the same thing with NPR. Um, Originally, PBS and NPR were created so that the public had an alternative to corporate media. You know what? We've got 500 channels, more than that now. We've got satellite radio. We've got thousands upon thousands of podcasts. PBS and NPR no longer serve a purpose. We, and quite frankly, PBS makes a fortune because they have cable networks that people have to pay for. They have licensing deals. They have home video deals and streaming deals. Taxpayer money is no longer necessary to keep PBS running, and I don't think we should be funding it.
100% agree. Um, well, just still getting back to the, I think it's more than a potential red wave. The, Very intriguing for me. Maybe you can help clarify it to me and our listeners. The abortion issue was a more than an Achilles heel to the Republican efforts. I'm talking this summer. It was a potential game changer. That as well has flipped because because most people want, yes, freedom of choice in the area of abortion, but most, even women, do not want abortion up to the time of birth. And I believe it hasn't exploded in the Democratic Party's face, but it's lost some of its weight.
It has lost a lot of its weight because the Democrats really thought this was going to be the issue that they could run on. In fact, they were calling their strategy Rovember, thinking that um, reinstating Roe v. Wade was going to be the big issue in November. That was going to push them over the top. And they shot themselves in the foot because the radical left actually put forth a bill to codify not what Roe v. Wade had said, but to allow abortions all the way up to birth.
I think they
And
call that
even
murder.
Yes, and even in the democratically controlled House, they did not have the votes to pass that. Because, and we've said this before, and as far as I know, the latest polls haven't changed. 83% of Americans believe a woman should have the right to choose, but with limitations. And most people agree those limitations should be between 15 and 20 weeks.
Well, it's how the party has shifted with with Clinton back in the '90s. There's open but rare, and now it's anything but that. So again, the radicalization of the Democratic Party has blown up in their face, even on an issue where they should have just harvested it. Um, well. Also, when we're looking at the political landscape, we see that Hillary is raising her
Yeah.
head
Bef-
once again.
Before we talk about
Yep.
Hillary, this news bulletin just came across our devices. I want to get this in. Bank records from Hunter Biden were handed over to Republican senators by FBI whistleblowers. Those senators,
Bombshell.
yes,
Bombshell.
those senators, Grassley and Johnson, have just turned them over to the U.S. attorney who's leading the criminal probe on Hunter Biden. This is going on just moments ago. So, yes, the Hunter Biden investigation is heating up and more of the evidence is coming to light.
And will
Thanks.
play. Look at the timing, Dr. Lopkin.
Yes.
This is no other alternative but to play a role in the midterms. There's no way even CNN cannot cover this.
That's it.
Impossible.
This could very well be the October surprise
That they never
So,
counted on, did they?
yes.
Well, that's great news. Thank you. And I mean, it's very, very good that we broke in for that. But there is Hillary again raising the spectrum. Again, if you're a Democrat, you can say whatever you want. She's already talking about the 2024 election being rigged. Dick Morris believes it's just a way of her reasserting herself with a weak president to be the alternative when things hit the shitter. Your thoughts?
Hillary does not understand that she is the only person in the country at this point that's more polarizing than Donald Trump. That's why she lost. People that hated Donald Trump went, well, I really don't like Donald Trump, but Hillary's just worse, so we're voting for him. She does not understand that her time has
And
passed.
she's become a little weird. We don't like to play amateur psychologist, but she seems like she's not all there. She's kind of nuts. I'm sorry, she is.
No, and
She's crazy.
she has been brought up recently on the Republican side because as more and more of the Democratic strategy seems to be focusing on January 6th, they're going, well, they tried to overturn the election. The Republicans are now starting to push back and saying, well, Hillary Clinton has been claiming that the 2016 election was fraudulent for 6 years. Why are you not criticizing her?
Well, how about Stacey Abrams in
Yeah, I was
Georgia?
about to say, Stacey Abrams has been saying it was a fraudulent election and she really won for the entire election cycle. These people cannot accept the fact that they are horrible candidates.
Horrible.
That is why they lost. Why did Hillary comes up with all of these reasons for why she lost. The reasons that she lost were very simple. One, Ohio was a swing state. And she went to Ohio and told the coal miners she was going to put them all out of jobs and then expected them to vote for her. The Florida Democratic Committee, Florida was also another swing state in 2016 that went for Trump. And the Florida Democratic State Committee had this conversation saying, well, why did Hillary win? And the then treasurer brought up the fact because she came down and campaigned once. Trump was down there a dozen times at
She never
campaign
even
events.
went to Wisconsin.
Right. She never went to Wisconsin. She just assumed people were going to vote for her. She didn't treat it as an election. She treated it as a coronation. And the people of America don't want a coronation.
There's another factor with her as well, though, a psychological phenomenon. The more you spend time with most people, like in a classroom, in a meeting, in a business, excuse me, a business situation, you usually develop more positive feelings. You're not going to be their best friend, but some positive. Oh, I know Jack. Yeah, he was in my accounting class, whatever. Okay. She had the antithesis of that. The more time, and it was reflective in the 2016 polls, when she was out of the public light, her poll numbers were going up. As soon as people got another look at her, they're like, "Oh God, oy." and her poll numbers. She is the antithesis of what most human nature dictates.
Well,
But
the fact of the matter is, she has the exact same problem that Donald Trump has. She cannot get out of the way of her own ego. And that is going to stop her. And worse, she was swinging further to the left during the primary debate in 2016. She said, well, on the issues, there's no real difference between her and Bernie Sanders. Well, guess what? Americans didn't want Bernie Sanders, and her saying that she had the same policies, it's like, great, it's policies we don't want from a person we don't like.
and that summarizes it 100% succinctly, no question about it. And she's never had any convictions. She just was running, say anything, do anything to win.
No,
Uh,
she was
th-
a carpetbagger in the New York Senate
yes,
race. She moved to New York for the sole purpose of running for an empty Senate seat. She should have gone back to Arkansas and tried to run where people knew her.
and that would have been 0.0 chance of winning.
Yeah.
Closing on kind of a troubling note, to say the least, we had Kanye West, who's at times made some good points. I question if he's got all the oars in the water. Some highly anti-Semitic comments, and beyond that, in California, the liberal bastion, once of free thought, basically at what I think is UCLA, Berkeley,
It's
has
UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley has Jew-free zones, and actually had vans with signage basically outside the perimeter of the campus, essentially having very troubling anti-Semitic comments, even tying back to the Holocaust. My question, also, before I let you run with this, is where is Mr. Blumenthal, the man who never met a camera he didn't love?
No, Blumenthal has not said a word about the
Not a
anti
peep.
Semitism coming out of his party. And what's really annoying is that during the local elections, um, I believe it was last year, one of the local candidates was called onto the carpet for his excessive spending. Now, that was literally what was said about him. And Blumenthal came out and said he's being targeted because he's Jewish and we can't stand for that. Um, yeah, when a Democrat is accused of excessive spending, that's being a Democrat. Nothing with what religion is. When a
100% agree.
politician, call for excessive spending, it's called being a politician. It's got nothing to do with their religion. So he was more than happy to make up an issue dealing with anti Semitism. But when Ilhan Omar says legitimate anti Semitic comments, when Kanye West says legitimate anti Semitic comments, when the state of California seems to be turning against Jews, he's nowhere to be found. And to be fair, neither is Chuck Schumer. Neither are most of the Jews in Congress. Where
Well,
are these people?
well, we
Why
have
are
talked
they
about this
letting this
before.
happen?
We have talked about this before, and I am Jewish. I scratch my head and think, what are you thinking about? The days of the Democratic Party embracing Judaism or Jews and Israel is like 50 years ago. Wake up, smell the coffee. They're not your buddy. Get the hell out of the party.
Yeah, they have completely turned their backs on the Jewish people. And it's not even a matter of Israel. According to the FBI statistics, the largest number of hate crimes are committed against Jews. And yet there's no outrage on the liberals. They'll yell and scream from the top of their lungs that Black Lives Matter when briefly, when there was assaults on Asians, they were quick to defend Asian Americans, but when it's Jews being attacked, crickets. They
And it
don't
shows you,
care.
I think it shows you some real, actual feelings and orientations. Sorry, facts speak for themselves, actions speak for themselves.
It does. And realistically, at this point, if you even, I mean, I was brought up Jewish. I'm not terribly religious, but I still consider myself Jewish. If you consider yourself Jewish, how can you stand with these liberals who are fighting for the extinction of Israel, who are ignoring hate crimes against the Jews? We cannot let this happen.
I would agree. Well, Dr. Lopkin, another great show, Carnivore Radio. We're getting more and more listeners. Things are looking quite good because we have great content. And how can people access our show and also make comments?
Yeah, let us know what you think, what issues are important to you, what your opinions are. Go to exvadio.com/connect. That's exvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking. You can catch every episode of Carnivore Radio at the Carnivore Radio website at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and any platform that respects freedom of speech.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin, and thank our listeners.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.